Hello again, guys. Welcome back to the Retro Room. I got a hold of one of these quad floppy controllers. It has two connections, well really three, for floppy drives. Each one can handle two drives, like your standard PC floppy drive controller. This is for edge, this connector here is for edge connector floppy cables. And if you use this connector right here cannot be used. It says for drive 0 and 1 on both of them. This second one is for drive 2 and 3. So you can have an A and a B, and then whatever letters the other two drives end up being. It has an 8-segment display here on the top that can be broken off and a cable connected to this connector if you wish to mount that somewhere else. I'm not going to be doing that. It is an 8-bit ISA card. Already has a mounting bracket on. There are dip switches where you can set the I/O address and other settings on this card. And today I'm going to build a system to run 4 floppy drives. I'm going to use this case. I'm not sure if any of this on the front works yet. This is a recent find. These port covers will all be taken off because it'll have two 5 1/4 inch drives, a 3.5 inch drive, and a Gotek floppy emulator. For this build, I'll be using this motherboard. This is a Jetway J446B, if you can see that between the PCI slots here. This is a later 486 board, has 3 ISA slots, 16-bit, all 3 of them, and 3 PCI. You may have seen a board similar to this on my channel before, because it is the exact same board as my beaten stepchild board, which is this guy. I'll put him aside. But unlike that board, this board works perfectly. Dual IDE channels. It's a floppy connector, but we're going to disable this because of the floppy controller card we're going to use. Parallel 2 serial ports on board. It's got a bit of cache on here. This says 256K, which is probably accurate. Got a couple standoffs on here. I'm going to leave those in there for now until we can get him mounted in the case, and we'll see what it needs. And we'll be using all of these drives. This first one is a 360K 5 1/4 inch drive made by Fujitsu. It is the M2551A with the serial number there for any of you playing along. We'll also use this drive. This is a 1.2 meg TIAC 5 1/4 inch disk drive. It's the TIAC FD55GFR, again with its serial number. Made in Japan. I'm sure you all are familiar with this. This is the Gotek USB floppy emulator. This says flash floppy on it to make this job easier. And a pretty standard beige face, and he's dirty. A 3.5 5-inch 1.44 meg floppy drive, which is also a TAC, the model FD235HF. For the processor, I'm going to use, mostly because it's what I found first, this AMD 486DX4100. This will run at 33.3 continuous megahertz multiplied times 3 to reach the 100 megahertz. This is a 3-volt chip, or 3.3 volts. Going to cool him with this fan, if this fan works. I don't know. I have a couple compact flash cards, since I'm not going really for purity or originality, or to keep this original for the time. One of these two should work in this system. I'm hoping this 4 gig card works, but this 512 meg card will be a standby if I can't get this one working. One of those cards will go into this compact flash to IDE adapter. These are also pretty standard. It's a power adapter. Little Molex power adapter that this thing may require. I won't have a need for a whole lot of internal cards like a sound card or modem or network card. This is meant for dealing with floppies, but for a video card, since I have 2 of these, and again it's the first one I grabbed, it's this is a Diamond Stealth 64 PCI running the S3 Trio 64 video chip with the optional RAM already populated. Before we jump right into building this system, might as well clean this case, take a good look inside of it, make sure it's going to be a good fit for what we're going to do with it. First step in cleaning this, I'm going to pop off these covers. When doing this, you want to be gentle, as this is old plastic. It could be dried out. These seem to be in good shape though. That popped right out without any issue. There's a lot of dust in there. I'll put these aside. And then this ugly one. You can see into the gaping hole better than I can with that camera. It already has a power supply inside. A little dirty right around the edges here. To start cleaning this beast, I'm going to use a cheap blue washcloth and this stuff called Mean Green Super Strength. If you end up using something like this, be careful on painted surfaces. It can eat paint, but it's been pretty safe in everything I've used it on. Looks cleaner. You can see some of the dirt that's come off of that case. Spray the cloth down. Get inside here, make it look pretty. Oh, there's a bit of a crack right up here. Well, we won't agitate it. Not a lot we can do about it right now. All right. Turn him around to this side. It's got some spots on it. Give it a spray. That's a little paint chip there. Right, we'll turn him around. There's a power supply. We'll have to make sure that that works. There's some gunk around here. Looks like this screw down here is rusty. It just eats that grime right off the case. That's a lot better. All right. With a screwdriver in hand, first take out this screw. You know, looking at him, I don't think he's rusty. I think it just has the same gunk that the rest of the case had on it. We'll work on cleaning him a little bit later. Take out these other screws. Come out of there, you turd. There's another screw that has some gunk on it. And the case cover just kind of sprung out. That's all right. Lift him up. I don't know if you can see inside the case there. It's kind of gummed up a little. We'll move that aside. We'll attack this guy. Just get some of the dust and grime out of the interior. All right, we'll put him down. We'll take a look on the inside of the case. Case doesn't quite sit level. It's got a bend in it right there. I don't know if you guys can see that. Doesn't look like it affects anything though. Tempted to set that down and step on it. See if I can straighten it out some. But we'll clean him first. Move this wiring out of the way. Give it a spritz. It's looking better. Gross. Bit of a dust bunny stuck in there. And I have a feeling this was stuck in somebody's garage for a number of years. But we're all cleaned fairly well. Doesn't look like there's any more dust or other little bits of debris floating around in there. All right, and up here on top, you can see the switch cable coming around here to the power switch, which is right here. Then the motherboard tray, which we can probably take that out to mount the motherboard. But we're going to clean this top tray first. Where did my cheap cloth go? I found it. The sheet metal just brightens up. Okay. It's probably the cleanest this case has been in at least a decade. Now, before I do anything else, let's plug a power cable into this power supply and see if we can't get something to blow up. Hopefully it doesn't, but it's kind of to be expected. He's off. Let's turn him on. That is not making a good noise. All right then. Why don't we try this one? It says American Enhanced 200 watt power supply. It's exactly like the one that's up here though. And this one has its power switch still attached. Let's unplug him. We'll take a look at that power supply, possibly in a later video. This one's kind of rusty on the back. I don't have high hopes. But the fan spins. It's acting pretty normal. And it powered off like it's supposed to. Let's put a load on it, particularly a load I don't care about or that I've already lost hope on. This is, if you've seen in a previous video, this is a Seagate ST157A that just does not work. I'm going to use it as a load just to see what the power supply does. Power's right up. All right, with that running, I'm going to poke and prod on this guy and hope I don't drain my multimeter. Get this down where you guys can probably see it too. If I stop knocking it around. Some Molex connectors right here. The middle two on these are always ground. I'll jab him in there. The top one on this one should be 12 volts. 11.9. That's pretty good. The bottom one down here should be 5 volts. 5.3. That's about what I expected. Try the Molex connectors because those are a little more important. So they connect directly to the motherboard. All three of these red connections should show as 5 volts. 5.3. 5.3. Well, I'm not making a good connection there. Maybe it's my negative not making a good connection. 5.3. We'll do the same on this one. 5.3. 5.3. 11.9. 11.6. That's the minus 12 volt rail, and it's doing just fine. I want to say this power supply is working. At least it appears to be working right now. Let's pop the cover on it and inspect for damages. Let's turn him off. Don't need the sound of that hard drive droning on. Unplug him from power. Okay, it has an L-shaped part. You can see a joint there. And then there's a joint here. It's 4 screws, and it should just open up. I don't think, well, I don't think this power supply has ever been opened. That's not a big surprise though. We'll fix that. This other one has been opened. That seal has been cut. And we're in. That's pretty dirty. That's pretty dirty. Put that top down for now. On the inside here, see the transformer, the different rails. There's another over there. Little fuse down there. 2 capacitors aren't bulging. I'm not seeing any signs of leakage or anything. And it actually looks really clean on the inside there, besides a little bit of dust, but not even so much of that. Well, we'll give it a shot. But before we put him back together, let's clean the gunk off of this plate. If it'll clean. I mean, it's better. Still have some freckling going on here. Well, it's better. Put this back together like we had it. Pop the screws back in. I start with these closest to the, furthest away from the bend, because I feel like they hold the whole power supply chassis together a little better. Is that one? There's the last one. I'm going to pop this power supply switch off. Now this does run mains voltage directly to the switch. So be careful when you're operating the push button if it's outside of the case. It has 4 connections, and they're never too easy to take off. There's a little nub right on the inside of that connector. See if I can get one to show you guys. I guess not. It's just a little piece of this casing that pops into that little hole whenever you slide the connector on. So it keeps it from coming off real easy. Like this one. And like that one. Something a little better to hold it on. Maybe that wasn't so good. Just get between the, I just got between the switch body and this connector. Just wiggling down until he comes off. Do the same with this other. All right, let's set this guy aside since I'm fairly certain he works. I'll take this one out since I'm fairly certain he doesn't work. Even though the case looks a lot better on this one. Before anybody asks, yes, the switch is set to the proper voltage. It says 115. 110, 120, 115 is standard here where I am. I to get it off this switch here. Okay. Let's take this motherboard tray off. It has 3 screws. One was up here, one's down here where you can see I'm working now. And one's right up here. There we go. And there's a, I don't know if you can see it, but it's held on to a ground strap right here. Little ground wire. Which is just fine. There's that tray. He needs to be cleaned too. But he looks in good shape and is straight. There we go. Just in case, you want to make sure you keep in mind the orientation of these wires back here. On this one, we have white and black in the back, with white being the furthest inside. Just in front of white is a blue on the front on the inside, then brown just in front on the outside in front of the black. Though that can be found online as well, that information. And on most AT power supplies, these later ones anyway, AT's style, it has that right here on a diagram of where to plug in the power supply wires. All right, with him disconnected, we'll set him aside. We'll take a look at him later. This is the rusty one. There's a spot to possibly mount a hard drive right there. Guess you have to do that before the power supply gets put in. Drop him in there. Since this was outside before, we'll leave it on the outside here. White was on the inside. In the back. We'll start with that one. Actually, no. We'll start with the blue one. It's the hardest one to get to. Pop him on. Then this one is the brown one. It goes in front right beside blue. And the black one goes right behind the brown one, like so. And then the white goes right beside black, just like so. Now we'll put the screws in him. Back that up a little so we can position him. Just using the same screws that went in it. Well, using the same screws that held the other power supply to hold this one down. just like that. A little bit of dust hanging out there. That's okay. Let's take a quick look at that other power supply while it's on my mind. I would rather save it than toss it. AT power supplies are getting a little bit hard to come by sometimes. And it's better to save something than to throw it, than to trash it. This one's just like that other one. Goes together the exact same way. My goodness, he is dirty. Dust all through here. You can see all the wires for all these wires coming out of him. To be honest, he doesn't look bad, but there is... I don't see any sign of leakage. But that capacitor right there is different than it was in that machine. And there's a hornet's nest in there. How curious. See if you guys can see that. Right underneath these wires here, there's a little mud dauber thing. I broke him loose. See if we can shake him out. There he is. There's a dead wasp baby in there. Okay. Wonder if that did anything to him. Found a problem. That capacitor right there is starting to bulge. That capacitor may already be bad. How interesting. I don't know what the stats on that capacitor are. I don't really see any signs of leakage, but that's probably the issue. Well, I'll look at that later. This is going to be a multi-part video. Thank you for joining me for this one. And when we come back, we'll put the motherboard in this case, do some preliminary tests, make sure the system works and the fan and all of that. And again, thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful day.